and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you all for attending this evening. Appreciate that. Hope everybody had a nice, longer weekend. So this is our agenda for Tuesday, February 20th, 2024, at 7 p.m. Is the camera running?
Yes, Brian.
Yes, sir. Okay, we have the pledge of allegiance. Next would be public comment for anyone who has anything, questions. Okay, if none, then we'll move on to announcements. No real announcements at the moment. The only one we have here is for the Orange County Mobile DMV unit. That unit will be at the Village Hall at this address, 9 Fairlawn Drive, Washingtonville, Friday, February 23rd from 10 to 12. Then they grab some lunch, and then from 1 to 3 for any motor vehicle need except for written examinations as usual. The van will be parked on the left side of the building as usual, and please take advantage of it. Everybody who had needed it finds it very, very, very convenient, so please do that. Moving into discussions, it might have been on the agenda at our last meeting, but we just wanted to reiterate it again, the discussion on utilizing extra capacity of the sewer plant as a revenue stream that came up a couple of times during our budget meetings. From our engineering and from H2O, they believe it's a bad idea for the size of our plant and what introduction of some bad material or whatever would be discharged into our system, what it could potentially adverse effects that it would have on the operational end of the plant, and potentially putting us in a position that we would be having to obviously answer and potentially fines with DEC. They say larger plants, you can get away with that because of the amount of volume of water versus what's being entered into the system. So, and what I learned through the conversations that there's a difference of septic waste versus home that already has a sewer system in place. It's all about oxygenation, and septic systems is a very more dense, less oxygen, and that's what could really set off the plant in a negative way. So,
Tom, something also to that, I was approached about maybe campers discharging into it from mobile homes.
yeah, that conversation popped up a little bit, but what the money, the revenue stream would be only about $15
Right.
per discharge.
Well, I'm not
And
thinking,
it's still, they weren't really thrilled about anything being entered into the plant at this point.
so, well, I'm not thinking about it as a revenue stream, because obviously there's not much money to be made from a camper.
Right,
I'm being told though that camper waste is already treated with enzymes, so it's already partially broken down. And I'll be the first to admit, this is not my world, don't know anything about it. But if we may wanna, double check that with H2O, see what the expense would be to create the dump site, and maybe as a courtesy to residents only for a nominal fee, allow residents to be able to use that opportunity. It's just something to think about. We do have a lot of campers within the village.
okay. Well, I'll talk to both Chris and Jim Farr, the engineer, and get their feedback.
Okay.
I'll ask them to put something in writing for the board. Cool, okay. Our next is confirmation and receipt of the village sweeper of $250,000 grant funding. Well, that money came on the 15th and will be set aside in an account. We're gonna, I've asked Leslie to double check our debt schedule to make sure that either the sweeper has been paid off or it's virtually almost paid off, and if there is a balance, then this money will go towards paying off that balance. then we'll more than likely take that money and put it into some kind of a reserve account and just sit on it until we feel that things have settled down from a budget perspective, and we'll just make some decision based on that. From our previous conversation, we had talked about using money for DPW, since we had lost 2 trucks from age and being just taken off the road because of dangerous conditions with the vehicles. So we'll just put that in an account and hang on to it. Yeah, Sean?
Yeah, Sean Hagerty, 4 Belvoir Drive. I just spoken to Munistat, which I got the information from you. They were saying money that comes back in bonds or from the state should be put exactly back into paying off bonds. So I believe the sweeper was put on the same bond with this building and possibly with the Randy Hagan lawsuit money that was being
Yeah, that's
paid
what I'm
off.
trying to scope out, right?
So I don't know why we would spend this. Why don't we lower our debt and lower our loans by putting it all into principal, or whatever has to be done with it, but to spend it on a truck or something else, we're just running our debt up more, and next year it's gonna be 30% raise in taxes instead of 20, whatever it is.
Well, it really shouldn't, because if you're using cash that you have for an expense, then I'm not bonding for a truck for $250,000.
We're still paying off a bond that has whatever.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but that was my first comment. If there's any, whatever the balance is and whatever that money could be put towards, then we'll do that. I spoke to Noah after your conversation, but I think he circled back to the point that you can't pay off a bond prematurely.
A ban, you can't pay off prematurely.
Yeah, that's 1 year, right.
A bond, you
But
can,
you're in a bond with
a bond you can.
your sweeper.
Right, so he said the bond can be paid off. Not a
I'll
ban.
clarify that, because that's not what I believe
If you're
we
gonna
were
pay
told.
it in its entirety, you can't make partial payments towards it, so you can't make like a payment and a half. If you have the remaining balance,
I'm gonna call him again, because when he said it to me, he said, could be, whatever money comes in from the state should be put towards bonds. So, if we owe bonds on this building, whatever we owe them on, it should all go towards that instead of pissing it away somewhere else.
No,
You're doing the same thing the previous administrations are doing, you're taking Peter and giving it to Paul.
no,
It's already been
my
paid.
psychology on that, and really has always been, if I get money returned, right, I don't have to go out and do another band and do a bond for 200 or 300 and something thousand dollars that I'm gonna end up putting on the backs of the taxpayers. This debt has already been created, we're paying that debt off.
Right, let's get rid
If
of
I
it.
do it again, then I'm going, if I even put that 250 towards it, if I can put it towards the building, yeah, I'm making a chip, but then I'm gonna go out and borrow 350 for another 10 or 20-year bond for vehicles that, potentially we need.
So you still have 2.5 million or something, don't you?
I'm sorry?
Don't you still have 2.5 million on another bond? That you
It's
floated to 4.5?
I think it was 1.5.
Right, so we have that sitting there, we're gonna be paying loans on. We have these other loans, and you're
Right.
saying it's gonna be better to spend this on a truck. Doesn't make sense to me. I don't
Well,
know.
if you think it's better to put the 250 towards the existing ban or bond, and then I need to go borrow for a truck, you think that's better?
We already have the 1.4 million. What are you gonna use that for?
I'm talking about using the 250 for a vehicle. Multiple vehicles, we'll purchase that used.
Okay, so would
That's what I'm
you
talking about.
take this smaller amount? What are you gonna do with the 1.4 million, or whatever's left there? You're gonna keep that too?
Which 1.4 are you talking about?
You took 4.5 million, correct?
Correct.
You said you're down to 1.5 million. Maybe 2.5, I heard
Say
2.5
say
million.
2, whatever, yeah.
So you're gonna keep that, we're not gonna pay off the other bonds, and we're gonna spend the 250,000.
we don't get to keep that if we don't use it for the deficit financing.
Well, the deficit financing, we're not touching at all, right? We're not gonna touch the deficit financing until the audit comes back from OSC to tell us that where we are with the debt. That's gonna sit in that account. Because semi-good news is that we're obviously entering into a new year, budget-wise, So tax revenues are gonna be coming in. So the thought is, we're gonna keep that to whatever's left will be in that account, getting 5.5% interest. And then we can start doing our 24-25 budget with the taxes that are coming in on a regular tax year.
My belief is you should pay off your bonds and bands. Bonds,
Yeah.
you can't pay off the bands and insurance.
And if you want, we can have a conference call, I can put it together, and you and I and Noah can sit on the phone and figure that out.
All right.
That's easy, all right? Let me know when you're available, let Christine know, we'll set it up.
That may be tough.
Well, whatever works for you. Any time of the day, whatever works. But in the meantime, I'll check into the ban versus the bond, and we are seeing what potentially we could do with that money. Any other questions on that, folks? Anybody? Okay. Number 3, we're pursuing a $50,000 grant for recreation for the Vern Allen Park for the Woodfield Skateboard Park. Vernon is taking the lead on that. Vernon, we had a call with the state. I don't know, is there anything in
She
particular you want to add?
just gave me the links that I have to follow up. I'm gonna check with other municipalities and see what they did to acquire the grants, and that's where we're at right now.
Okay, great. Good. Any questions on that, anybody? Number 4, developing budgets for a grant for Sewell Park, and we'll be meeting with Assembly Brian Marr this coming Friday to have that conversation about the park and potentially what we can, what they can do from the state level to help us out. Otherwise, we'll be applying for a recreation grant if that avenue doesn't seem to be open to any kind of funding. So we'll see where we are, just give you a heads up on that. Also, we had a conversation with Senator Skoufis's office a couple of days ago and a conference call this morning in regards to our band payment, our interest payment of $309,000 that needs to be made this year. And again, that was included in your tax rate for this year. So since they're in budget season and negotiations are going on, they're going to try to potentially give us, get us that money to, soften the blow. So that's the goal, and whatever they can get at the end of the day would be helpful. So we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll keep you informed as those meetings are happening and how the budget discussions are going as you watch it on the news like me. Next is confirmation of receipt. Again, we had received approval that we will be receiving the $100,000 grant payment for drainage work on Emerson and Secord. We're just waiting for that paperwork to work its way through and get a date of when money would be wired to us. And that grant will set that money aside also for roads, because, between all the 5 different types of CHIPS, the reimbursements that you get, I think it's about $80,000, between 70 and 80,000, Chris, right? So it's not a ton of money. So this 100 will definitely help us with drainage work on Lincoln and North Street as well as we scope this out. Okay. Let's see. There's also pursuing an additional grant for $135,000, and this would be for new electric and lighting down at Vern Allen Park. The electric that's in the ground there currently is well over 20 years old. Some of the conditions of the pipes and so forth, wiring is in pretty poor condition. And we're in touch with a couple of the electrical contractors to bring in a lighting company to give us an idea what it would be costing for LED lighting. So there'll be more to come on that. Anything from the board, anybody? Then also, number 8, there was a discussion, probably during budget discussions, about how far can a municipality to raise taxes. So what we were able to find out is, say 85%. Anything above 85% is when the state would actually potentially step in and intervene and ask potentially, I guess, why. So just for that statement, that's what we were able to, find. Number 9 for Cardinal Drive, we're talking to a couple of horticulturists and other people that are interested in gardening and so forth. We are gonna look at doing a community garden over on Cardinal Drive, which is village property, which needs to be obviously open space, and that's what it would be, to see if we can develop some kind of a community garden. So if anyone is interested in that, please let the board know, Christine know.
Is that by the old tennis courts?
Yeah, near the tennis court, where you get pretty good sunlight still over there on who's over there?
And it doesn't flood as easily as the
Yeah,
rest of
it's a
Cardinal.
little bit higher over there than on the other side, which is more shady, because there's a lot of trees.
But I think there's still a driveway cut from the tennis
There
courts.
is a driveway cut there, yeah, they took the tennis court out, but, yeah, but the area something could be done there. And then also, part of the grant that we had mentioned for $100,000 for downtown revitalization is planting of trees, for our downtown area, and we're also looking at doing a program for Ahern Boulevard with trees that either are flowering or just really have a great presence. And we met with a horticulturist today and looking at different types of trees, things that would really kind of enhance the area. That would be a volunteer type program, donations more or less from residents or anybody who would like to donate a tree. We'll figure out to do a plan to do a spring planting, and if there's enough interest to do a fall planting with these types of trees, and they come in different colors. We'll share that information when we get it, so that if someone wants to do it, you'll know the price of the tree. There'll be a form to be filled out that you want to, and the event committee, I think, is gonna be taking the lead on that from a beautification standpoint. Then also for the trees downtown, part of, again, that $100,000 grant. Finally received an email from the lighting company, because I've asked them for a proposal for solar lighting versus electric lighting, to see what the cost differences would be between labor and just lights. They're almost done with that, so once we get that, we'll know what type of spacing between lights we'll have. The areas that we're interested in doing will be the south side of 94, from the banks down to the corner, then around the corner to the bridge, and then on the other side where the old Nailed It building is, bringing that all the way around and running it down the west side of Main Street up to the Dillon's garage. The other side of the street has already lighting, which isn't a problem. EJ Square has lighting. The other area would be in front of F&J's Guilty Pleasures along that line, and then just, excuse me, making a turn around the corner for a couple of lights there. So whatever they come back with design-wise, then we'll figure out where we could put some trees, and then submit all that information to the state for the grant. And if it has to be a phased approach, because I can't imagine $100,000 really going very far in these days. So, more to come on that. Another project, working with the VFW. Everybody could be familiar with VFW pole banners. This is another donation idea where if you had a family member in any particular war, that we're trying to get this kind of started and prepared and done for Memorial Day, so that between the American flags, we could put up banners of your father, your brother, some family member with a picture, and it has their name, their service.
They have these up, I think, in Montgomery has these up.
Yeah, they're all over. These actually are pretty nice. I could pass this around if somebody wants to. Edie, maybe you want to, or Pat, you could pass it around. That's just one example. for the sign itself, double-sided, it was pretty reasonable. I believe it was under $50. So if, you know, I'm gonna do one for my daughter who was in Iraq, and I'll do one for my dad who was in World War II. So, you know, if anybody's interested, that will be coming your way. We'll post it and let everybody know. Any questions on that, anybody? Okay. Next is 11, Environmental Facilities Corporation. We've had conversations about this ongoing. This is EFC. So the sewer plant, we've been able to submit today a reimbursement request for $173,000, $173,167.33. We anticipate that to go through without any hitches. As soon as we hear back from EFC, it normally takes a few days before they run through their calculators and make sure that everything was done properly. So that's out there, and we're looking at other contractors and other monies that are out there. So we'll let you know how that turns out. Any questions on any of that? Anyone? Alrighty.
I don't have a question about that, but I do have a question about, it's nice to see the village being beautified and everything, but what is being done about the problem of constant flooding? The retention ponds, retention basins not being cleaned out, the spillway not being repaired. Even part of the problem is when they put the hydroelectric plant down in Salisbury Mills, which is no longer in use, I don't believe.
It is.
It is? I never see water going through the pipes. That's why I said.
Well, I've been told that they only use it in the spring.
So maybe they should be asked to put a lowering spillway when the water starts. Because
Well, there
the
is a-
flooding got worse when they raised the spillway by 3 feet.
Yeah, people had said that that had happened, yes. And who approved it? No one seems to know.
With the electric. No.
Well, they just can't arbitrarily just take a,
Well, I didn't say arbitrarily, it's not even our area. They
well,
asked them, the power plant, to put a
but
spillway
you would
that
think
lowers.
everybody upstream would have been notified and a public hearing or something would have been done in order to know that thing was raised either a foot or 2 feet or wherever it was. No one's ever, I asked around when I heard that rumor, but I never heard any confirmation of how high that thing was actually raised.
You can't tell by looking at it, you can see that it was raised. I do remember them raising it, how
Yeah.
much, I don't know.
Yeah,
But the retention basin needs to be taken care of, the retention pond needs to be taken care of. The outflows need to be cleaned out at a specific time of years, and nothing left alongside, because all the seeds and the, goes right back into the stream. They're in almost as bad shape as they were when they were done.
what specifically?
You know, when they cleaned out the,
Yeah, well, they've
Outflows.
cleaned out all of
they're
the
supposed to take the
easement and
debris
drainage
away.
areas,
They
right?
just dumped it alongside it.
Right, and that was poor planning on, you know, I wanna say on that particular board's part, that,
That had not, wait a minute.
oh yeah.
That's not up to the board.
Oh, yes,
That's
it
up to
No, the
DPW.
board, if I tell the board to go dig, and they don't know what to do with the dirt, and you don't pay for the removal of the dirt, then what are they gonna do with the dirt? They're just gonna lay it on the side of the bank?
Were they told not to do that? Were they told that was the wrong thing? I went on the government site to
Well-
look up how it's supposed to be done, that's why I'm saying.
Okay, well, that's cool. I mean, just to throw it out there too, I mean, they did the sewer plant, right? And we had a conversation about this today. They had a speedies permit that's why, I don't remember the exact year at the moment, maybe 2018-ish. But the work at the sewer plant was suspended for 6 months because they didn't take out a permit that was supposed to be done.
The problem
So
is
the
they
place was
ran
on
it
hold
instead of-
for 6 months. And the contractors were screaming and yelling about payment. So you know what they did with the dirt when they got finished with it?
Well, they know they dumped it right.
Yeah, they dumped it in a retention pond. Brilliant.
Park too.
Brilliant. So now who's gotta empty that? Us. And imagine the size of that retention pond is about an acre or more, which needs to be dug out, dredged out, and then take that dirt and take it someplace that, for fill or burning or whatever the heck they would do with it, because they don't know what's in it, between asphalt and rocks, and it's a disaster. So you know, if you're gonna do a plan, I agree with you. If you're gonna do a plan and the whole idea is dredging, and if you don't have a plan to take that stuff away, then the only thing you can do is put it on the side of the bank. And that's
It's
what they
taken away
did.
every other time.
I'm sorry?
It's been taken away every other time, except for the last.
I don't remember the last time that stuff was ever cleaned out.
10 years ago, or 12.
No.
Was done when Art Jeffries was still.
I can tell you, the last time that I saw drainage ditch being done behind Capitol Drive near Decker was done by Matty Scapatello. He did it, Vern was mayor, that was the last time the drainage ditch from even in between Somerset, coming down into Decker that ends up in the pond. He dug that all out, put in riprap, and did the same thing on Capitol coming down where Terry Hughes used to live, that whole space. Those were two that I remember actually seeing work being done. But 10 years ago, I don't know, and Vern,
It's about 10. I've
Vern
walked
was
around a
like
lot,
late
more than
80s
maybe.
when that work was done, because he stopped, I think, in 91, 92. But, in any event. But if you don't budget for it, what are they supposed to do with it?
I don't know, but if we keep on getting flooded, all the beautification is gonna be useless.
Well,
We flood
nothing
downtown,
I
right?
can
Flood.
personally do about the flooding, except that we've cleaned out what we can clean. The Mudna itself is something that Army Corps of Engineers have looked at since the 2011 storm. They determined what they felt was the flooding things that were causing more flooding. They took care of those projects. And the Mudna has been what the Mudna is. When I talk to guys who've lived here all their lives, the trestles, they used to dive off the trestles into 12, 15 feet of water. Now that water is 3 feet.
It's all silt.
And they refuse to dredge it. I've asked for that. And I questioned it, and they won't do it. So, you know, I mean, they can do your community, but, you know, everything goes uphill, everything. So, you know, if you're gonna do our community, that means you're gonna have to dredge further up, further up, further up. It needs to be done. But it's not on their plate to do. Their thing was, we'll take care of the little cow bridge behind Maysfield. We'll take care of the flooding so that people can get out of the village, so they raise the road at Ahern.
Which is a disgrace.
And, you know, it's high, but, you know, hopefully you can stay dry. But the rest of it, building and filling in, your retention ponds is like a cardinal nub. And that's a disaster. And the more they build and the less, and every project today is supposed to have retention and detention ponds. Nothing is supposed to ever potentially get to the streams because those things are supposed to handle X amount of inches of rain per event so that water eventually just sits and then it goes into the soil, which it should. But
You need to fix the spillway, because that pond holds nothing. That pond's probably 3 feet lower than it used to be.
yeah, I told you that a couple of meetings ago. As soon as the weather breaks and we can get out there, that's one of the probably 4 or 5 that never got completed from last year just because it's been too wet and causing a disaster driving on, you know, everything. It's not conducive. We end up spending more money going back out, getting rid of the ruts and trying to do everything else. We know it. We got the tickets. We're waiting for the weather to break so we can do it. The spillway is one thing that's gonna get done. We got Decker Drive that needs to be done. We got the bottom of Decker Drive that needs to be done by Capitol that we've had open. But we're not gonna finish work to create more work. We wanna go in, finish it, and be done. And we've got the tickets. We're ready to go.
All right, I'll be looking.
Okay. Now we'll go ride our bikes together.
All right.
Okay. So, our first resolution, as we had discussed in our budget meetings, we have a resolution in front of us for amending and scheduling of the water and sewer rates effective May 24 billing cycle. So whereas pursuant Chapter 297 Water and 297 Sewer of the Village Code, the village Board determines water and sewer rents and charges water and sewer rates from time to time pursuant to resolution as set forth in Village Code 297-24 and 245-10. And whereas the village board desires to amend the water and sewer rates schedule in the village, now therefore be resolved by the village board as follows. Section 1, whereas clauses incorporated herein as set forth in full. Section 2, the village board hereby sets the water rate at $6.37 per 1,000 gallons and sewer rate at $8.84 per 1,000, and approves the adoption of such rate as scheduled for water and sewer rates to be effective in May 2024 billing. Section 3, the mayor and any officer, employee, or consultant as directed by the mayor is hereby authorized to take any and all actions to carry out the provision of this resolution. Section 4, that this resolution shall be effective immediately. The question of adoption of foregoing resolution was duly put forth by a vote on a roll call, which resulted in, so, trustee Coleman? Yes? Trustee Pressure?
Aye.
Trustee Jacaruso is absent. Trustee Wolski?
Yes.
Myself, yes. So the motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, next is a resolution to request New York State Department of Transportation to initiate a crosswalk study at the locations of North Street, 94, East Side, and Route 94, Village Municipal Lot, across from the new mini mall pharmacy bagel store. Have that a form of motion?
Motion.
Have a second, please.
Second.
Have a second. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0-1. Thank you very much. Next is a resolution to approve the public assembly permit for Blues Canine Rescue Walk on to be held Saturday, April 20th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. The route would be from Vern Allen Park up to Ahern Boulevard to High Grove, around Hopkins Court and back. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second, please.
Second.
Second. Question, comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0-1. Thank you. Next is a resolution to authorize the purchase of necessary body cameras and software in the amount of $22,405 for the village police department. The remaining balance of $48,000 was received as a grant funding through the Department of Criminal Justice Services, and will cover the cost of purchasing equipment, implementation, training, and yearly reoccurring costs. May I have a motion, please?
Motion. Second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0-1. Thank you very much. Let's see. All right, next is any remaining public comment, if anyone has anything? Edie?
Yeah, two quick things, both good, is I just, as I went out the door, finished the story about public statue last week. Thank you to Patrice for submitting half of the pictures of it from earlier in the
No,
meeting.
great.
Heads up, I haven't really proofed it yet,
Okay.
because I just wanted to make sure I get all of the raffle winners. I might be missing one or two of the names,
Okay.
but I went through it real quick, and might be a couple of typos.
Okay.
Secondly,
No, we'll check on that.
I don't want to jinx it, but there's some motion on potential for the candle store.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Well, maybe you don't want to say anything yet?
Well, I've been asked to get together a meeting of the people that are interested in space there, and with the county tourism and Steve Newhouse and planning department, and see what we can get going. We have a couple of people that are pretty serious about wanting some space. The rent is gonna be, or the lease is gonna be very high, so we would have to come up with at least 8 or 10 people. Plus, if the county wants it for a tourism office because of its proximity to the trail,
Right.
maybe they will take a couple of the spaces. And, you know, as Sugarloaf used to do, and Alma has started to do over at her place, sometimes you can get 3 people together to share a space for crafts or something.
Yeah.
I do think that if we get a couple of the spaces done that way, probably at least some, if not all of the lessors or sublets, whatever you would call it, would have to put something down on it in case we can't have somebody like disappear
Pick up
and
and
there's
walk, yeah,
$1,000, missing for the month.
right.
So, fingers crossed, it could be so good for the village.
Okay, great.
I have a list of a gazillion things we can have. The stage is beautiful. Patrick said he's gonna contact the vendors
Mm-hmm,
that have participated, see if any of them are interested.
good.
We have a couple of singers in the area that are amazing, a couple of bands. Speakers on the environment, on wellness, shows from the kids from the school. I'd like to do some hiking gear and environmental t-shirts and have the little kids from the school come and fashion them
Yeah,
and include some, have some inclusive activities there with kids with some special challenges.
yeah.
That's a start.
That sounds great. Great job. Cool. Yeah, keep us informed. Michael?
Mike Graziano, 3 Lark Street. Tom, a couple questions, actually three or four. You had mentioned one time about the expense of the lighting in the village. You said they're quite expensive for the,
Just to put electric on
Electric
all
for
the
the
poles,
lighting.
right?
do you guys have any idea as far as what percentage of those lamps are LEDs?
No, not right now, we don't.
Okay. Is there,
We did have an inquiry, we mentioned this a couple of times, but hasn't really moved much. But to update everything to LED,
Mhm.
and still waiting to hear back from the O&R people.
Okay, all right. All right. So you guys, you have a resolution to do the crosswalk study, right? You put a resolution in to do a crosswalk study?
Yes,
Are you considering doing it, or putting a resolution in for them to do a traffic light study where they can upgrade our traffic light system in our village to the video control that would help things move a lot faster?
we've asked for that, and they gave me a response saying that they had made some adjustments to the light at 94. People heading, I think, eastbound and making the left on 208 north. Roy really wasn't happy, and I'm actually getting back to that, because there were a number of things that were in that email that were somewhat, I don't know, very bland kind of, stuff. I mean, I finally got information actually back from 2013, 14-ish, for parking signs, that they're not going over the road, but remember we were having that conversation about the parking lots. So I'm trying to make application. I've left 4 messages or so for the Civi, out of Newburgh, I believe she is, but waiting for her to call back so we can get the work permit, so we can get the parking signs installed over at the entrance on 208 into the parking lot. And we're trying to do the same thing at the parking lot that we have obviously on 94, but that's a whole nother request. So we're still waiting to hear on that. yeah, this request for the crosswalk is something that we had talked about, and then they finally got back, and then they're just saying, listen, we need a resolution, we just can't ask for it, you know, so it had to be a resolution. And I got that information back from Assemblyman Moore's office.
Is that because of that one house they were gonna take down, there was a crosswalk there? Is that what initiated this whole crosswalk study?
No, what were initiated is what I saw down in Westchester, and those
Oh, the flame.
amber lights
Yes,
that
yeah.
are basically, they're solar, they're synced together,
Right.
and they have big amber bars on them in both sides of the poles, on both sides of the street. When somebody wants to cross the street, if you don't stop, that lady or anybody will be standing on either by the bank or by Stewart's all day long, because no one's really paying attention. But when you hit that button on this thing, it lights up like the 4th of July,
Yeah, I
and
like
everybody just stops.
Yeah.
So
I like
that is a dangerous spot, and,
That's a good
and for the
idea.
kids that are taking North Street, and, we're able to do that because it's ours, right? It's a village street, but because of the one that's on 94, I've gotta get their permission to do that one.
I see.
And I wanted to do the same thing down by, you know, the bagel store and the pharmacy, because a lot of people park there, and there is no real formal crosswalk there. And I know, I had heard that DOT wasn't excited about another one, because they supposedly, from the middle school to the high school, probably have another 3 or 4 crosswalks. So, but I think we really need something there, because the traffic is heavy, you know, and I think if somebody wants to cross the street and you're parking in the village lot, trying to go over to the pharmacy or bagel store, you know, it's,
Yeah.
it can be pretty tense, so yeah, just, and that, you're looking for one over there as well.
Lastly, is there any, in other words, is the village allowed to touch any county road? So in other words, if there's a pothole on 94, can they touch it?
Technically, I wanna say no, just like a
Yeah.
state road,
Yeah.
it's their road, what we would do is notify them. And if it was a dangerous situation, you know, I mean, we, you know, we would do something that would be for safety purposes, you know, but,
I just know there's enough potholes on our village streets
right,
that you guys don't wanna take care of the county and the state roads.
yeah,
But right where you come out of Stop and Shop right there, there's one there, there's one when you make the right at the traffic light right
Right.
there. Those things
Yeah.
there, you go in the other lane to avoid it.
yeah, it's a,
So technically, it is a safety hazard.
yeah,
If we just throw some cold patch in there,
yeah.
it may not stay forever, but it'll make it better
Well,
than
it'd
it
be
is
better
today.
than, yeah.
Even the one,
Or
just,
yeah, cause we had to do some cold patching, cause we had a water main break
yes.
on,
I'm sorry, you
by
guys worked
Cartwheel
on that.
and Arrow Point, so,
Yep,
you know, Chris, maybe you could just reach out to the DOT rep?
those 2 spots.
Yeah,
When you come up to the traffic light from Stop and Shop,
yep,
and as soon as you make the right, there's another one
Yeah.
right there.
I hit it all the time,
Yeah, I mean, you really hit it.
yeah,
good.
yeah, thank you,
That's it for now.
yes,
Since we're talking about Patrice Gessner, 7 Puritan, since we're talking about the bagel store, to go into their parking lot going towards the schools, it looks like it's wide enough for 2 cars in and out, but there is that first parking spot that's right there that's almost like on 94, that if there's somebody parked there, anybody coming out, it's almost like a one-way, which
Yeah.
causes traffic backing up, so I'm not sure if we
We
can.
had to look back on the plans to see if that was supposed to be a spot.
yeah, trust me, every time I go in there on my truck, I'm riding over the curb,
Right.
because it's narrow, it is narrow. And we can take a look at the plans and see if that driveway apron was supposed to be modified or not. So we'll take a look.
And then also I noticed on Stop and Shop Street, I'm not sure what that is.
Brotherhood Plaza Drive,
Thank you. As you're coming from the light to the store, on the left-hand side, there's a water drain sewer that's started to concave, but it seems like it's getting deeper and deeper.
Yeah, I know we were addressing the one at the top that's closer to Stop and Shop. This is the one
by the walkway.
that's down by the post office, you know,
Yes.
back,
at the end of
the,
that.
like, local delivery entranceway.
There was a crosswalk.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the storm drain, yep. Thank you. Anything else? Anybody? Chief, you have anything? You wanna mention anything? Chris, you have anything you wanna throw out there? You're all good? Good. Matt, you need anything over there? You all right?
No, sir.
No. Board, anybody?
Yeah, we have to have, executive session for personnel.
So, that's that. All right, so could I have a motion to enter into executive session for personnel issues?
I'll make
Have a second?
a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No decisions will be made. If you wanted to hang, free to do that, but it's probably outside. But thank you, guys.
Thank you, have a good night.
You too.